Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Now, just in case any of you didn't know, I'm currently in London, where I just so happen to travel to in order to see Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I've actually seen it twice now, and will probably see it a few more times over here before I head home. That alone should be an indication as to how I felt about this movie. Now, this review is of course going to be without any spoilers whatsoever, so if you're worried about anything leaking out to you early, I promise that you're not going to get it here. Now, I want to go ahead and start this by saying that anytime I analyze a movie or book, I honestly have to change my mindset and look at things from a wholly objective perspective. It's fairly simple to do once you've set aside your own personal enjoyment in something and just look at it as a product or piece of art rather than something you are extremely excited for. When reviewing a film, I think it's important to just watch the movie and pay attention to every single detail, whether it be the set design, cinematography, line delivery, editing, special effects, pacing, character development, plot, coherence. You get the point. I'm gonna go ahead and say that I honestly loved Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. I know that this film is great, and I'm going to tell you why. First things first, this movie's pacing is incredible. When I sat in the theater to rewatch Jurassic Park in LA, I finally picked up on how perfect the pacing is of that original film. Now, I've often stated that the one big issue I have with The Lost World is the fact that the movie has an issue bridging the action from Sorna to the mainland. And don't get me wrong, it's absolutely incredible filmmaking while in San Diego, but it does come out of nowhere. Pacing is one of the most important things for films to really nail and make sure that the audience is able to follow your plot 100% of the time. You don't want anything to drag, but you also don't want anything to feel too jarring and sudden. Fallen Kingdom does not have this problem. This is some of the best pacing I've seen ever in a movie. It is extremely fast and really delivers everything you'd expect it to in its 2-hour and 8-minute runtime. This is the second longest film in the series, and it flies by in breakneck speed. It's honestly the Mad Max Fury Road of Jurassic Park as far as pacing goes. This thing is non-stop and really coherent in everything it presents to the audience. There is not a single moment in this film that feels like it drags or comes off as ridiculously sudden. It's excellent. And to go off on that, I really want to say that the reason the film is so fast-paced and enjoyable has a lot to do with how it presents itself to the audience. If you pay attention to the camera work in the movie, you'll find that it is incredibly rare for there to be any shots that are without movement or at a standstill. Those shots do exist in it, but they only happen at times when characters are sitting down and talking, which is rare, rather than during any other parts in the film. And speaking of camera work, J.A. Bayona proves himself to be an incredibly gifted director with some of the most ambitious shots that I've ever seen in a modern blockbuster. Without going into spoilers, there is an underwater sequence in this film that is done entirely in one shot with all of the real actors taking part in the scene. There are no stunt doubles or cuts to be found whatsoever, and it really builds its claustrophobic and scary atmosphere in the same way the trailers over the cliff scene did in The Lost World. All of that is sold to the audience through camera work and believable acting. And speaking of believable acting, I loved this film's cast. There's not a single character that I didn't like in it at all. Franklin Webb, who some are concerned about being too cheesy, actually felt genuinely hilarious to me, and Danielle Pineda plays a really fun character who I hope to see return in future installments as Zia Rodriguez. Another thing that really impressed me was the chemistry between Owen and Claire. Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard really feel like a couple that is seriously attached to one another in this film, and I bought into their relationship wholeheartedly. The way they act off of each other never feels forced, and it's actually something that I think may be a huge highlight for this whole series. In the past, people were always afraid to really push the love story in the Jurassic films, but here, it's done correctly 100% with really impressive writing, acting, and all-around filmmaking behind the camera from Bayona himself. They're awesome in it. Great development in their relationship. Another thing I want to talk about is the way this movie really sets itself apart from the others in the series. This is a movie that does not try to set you up with a gotcha experience where it will make you think one thing is about to happen, only to completely bail on the idea and instead give you a much lesser experience in subvertive storytelling. Instead, Fallen Kingdom opts to set its situations up with the idea that an event will go down one way, only to show you that it will go down in a very different way that still yields the same result. It's full of really fun thrills and a large amount of spectacle that will absolutely be exciting for you to watch on the big screen. That being said, Fallen Kingdom also has some extremely emotional moments that I didn't see coming at all. There's a shot of the island that riffs off of something that we have all seen before, and it will become just as iconic as that original image. Both times I've seen it, left a huge impact on me, and I know others have had the same reaction as well. If you were a kid the first time you saw Jurassic Park, back when all we had was the first movie, this is going to hit you like a ton of bricks. A serious congratulations to everyone that was a part of making that scene. I can't talk about what it is because this is a non-spoiler review, but trust me, it's good. There are other shots in the movie that are equally impressive through their references to Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and Jurassic Park 3, but that one in particular, I love the most. That being said, these references are mainly from our connections with the first two films, and The Lost World especially is a movie that this film respects highly. To go ahead and get it out of the way, no, this movie is not a remake of The Lost World. It is not even remotely the same kind of film. It shares echoes of its older sibling through obvious callbacks that are designed to be obvious callbacks. The plot is actually radically different. But the reason that second film heavily influences this movie is actually because the film isn't a remake of The Lost World, but it's an outright sequel. The events of the second movie are said to have taken place early on in a quick scene in which, and again, this isn't spoilers, they name drop Sorna and quote dialogue that someone said in the second film. Take it from someone who loves that movie, this was something I really had fun with. The villains in this film were really great too. They're presented as antagonists with the same exact amount of character development as Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park, only don't come off as cartoony as the chubby greedy guy at all. I'll put it to you this way, there is an actual banana peel slip sound effect given to Nedry when he tumbles from his Jeep. You're not gonna get that level of animated goofiness from any of these baddies. And now that I've said that, they're also some of the most memorable villains in the franchise. One guy who shall remain unnamed reminded me a lot of Dieter Stark, and he actually has one of my favorite scenes in the movie with one of my favorite lines in the franchise. He gets a very nice scene that is taken directly from the second book, so yeah, brownie points for the novel guys like me out there. By the way, this film is very much so inspired by Michael Crichton. There are certain death scenes, lines of dialogue, and visceral imagery that the author created in his books that you get to see on the big screen in full in this movie. The opening and third act being very much so Crichton in every way, shape, and form. Now that I've said that, this movie introduces something to the audience that I'm not so sure everyone will be on board with. I can't say what it is because this is actually a shocking twist, kind of, that builds off of the past in a big way, but I found it to be very effective and the logical next step in Crichton's world. I can see some people being subjectively put off by it, but I do hope that they can actually look at the film for what it is and actually see that there isn't anything factually wrong with it as far as the lore of it all. It's a very creepy revelation, but it's also one that I think was bound to happen if we actually took that big step and continued what we were supposed to do a long time ago. And the reason I say all of this is because Fallen Kingdom is the first sequel to really take the T-Rex sized footstep forward in the franchise and actually do what they all talked about around that lunch table in Jurassic Park. It actually follows through and progresses the story. It doesn't backpedal and forces itself to grow and change by doing radical things like destroying the island and of course introducing everything that you'll see in the second act. If it didn't do any of those things, it would just be another movie about dinosaurs on an island, and in my opinion, I never want to see a Jurassic Park film like that again because you just can't do anything with that anymore. This movie has the balls and the brains to actually push ahead and continue what the first one did in 1993, and for that I will absolutely salute it. By the way, it does all of this and still manages to give the audience some of the best and original dinosaur scenes in the entire franchise. There's a lot of really cool stuff in here that people are going to love, but there are also a lot of brutal death scenes that are going to be highlights of the series' kill count. Objectively, I can't find a single thing wrong with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom that wasn't a shortcoming of Jurassic Park, and I cannot say that I think this is anything less than excellent. The way Bayona has filmed this thing is in a direct homage to classic Spielberg that also has an inherently gothic twist that makes it way more impressive to look at, especially during the last act. The movie is extremely enjoyable and actually quite intelligent in a lot of the little subtle biblical references that people haven't grasped onto just yet, and I can't wait to talk about them in my spoiler review when this movie comes out in America. I loved this movie and would honestly place it as my second favorite in the franchise. Just know before you go out that it is extremely fast-paced with barely any breathing room, super different in the way its camera work presents long one-shot scenes of violence or peril to the audience, and very evocative of material that is straight out of the books. This is a Jurassic movie that I want to watch again and again. There's a really great quote out there of someone saying that this very European feeling film is about a princess in a castle with a dragon. And I think that sums up a lot of what you can expect to see. Now just add in all of the genetically engineered dinosaurs and you've got yourself the best thing I've seen this year. I would be lying to you if I didn't give this movie an A+. And I know not everyone is going to feel this way because of the very Crichton-esque reveal that takes place near the end, but I don't think you should let any subjective outlooks on what was presented to you on the screen dictate your scoring of a film. If you do so, just know that no matter what anyone tries to tell you, if you're a critic, you need to divorce yourself from that subjectivity and do the job. If film was meant to be critiqued in a purely subjective basis, then the value of the film critic would be meaningless. I hope you all enjoyed the film as much as I did, and if not, then hey, that's okay too. There's my review. Take it or leave it. I had a great time and couldn't find a single thing wrong with it. Now, if you've seen the film, I'm going to ask for you to not share any spoilers in the comments section down below, because there are a lot of people who haven't seen this just yet. I do want to know what you think about the movie though, so let me know what your opinions were of it in the comments. Every opinion should matter here, and I definitely want to hear your honest thoughts. Now, before I go, I'd like to thank my game wardens, as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. It seriously means the world to me that you guys enjoy what I do so much, and I greatly appreciate all of the support that you've shown me. It honestly means the world. Now, I want to thank all of you for watching this video, and hope that you all enjoy today's content. If you feel like I deserved it, I would appreciate the like and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. I'll see you all in the next video, guys, and as always, take it easy.